We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Hey guys, Axomyth here, and I'd like to say Happy Father's Day to all the Star Wars dads out there today. By the time this transmission is uploaded, it'll be one rotation late, but it was still Father's Day weekend. Today we'll be looking at episode 8 of The Bad Batch. Oh, by the way, the shuttle's called the Marauder, so no more calling it the Shuttle. Though come to think about it, it wouldn't surprise me if it had a name in the Clone Wars and I just forgot. It's been a while. I should really watch those again. So before I geek out, let me start at the beginning. In a turn of events, we start at Kamino, with Crosshair and his posse walking like they're something. They walk into this room, where Admiral Rampart from Episode 3 is talking to the Kaminoans for some unknown reason again. Probably negotiating breaking the contract. Anyway, my suspicion last time came true, as Crosshair is contacted by a scrapper on Bracca about the rogue Clone Force 99 being spotted on the planet. Lama Su tries to reason with the Empire guy from Episode 3, Rampart. He wants to bring the clones back alive as he thinks they'll be great assets. Though I'm sure the Kaminoans have a deeper reason for trying to keep them alive, they don't care for the Empire after all. It's itching me to know why. Rampart's all like, we have more to worry about than deserters. Dispose of them. And Crosshair's off to fulfill another mission. Meanwhile on Bracca, the Bad Batch hadn't quite left. Wrecker has this explosive disassembled on the ground and teaching Omega how to do the same. He proceeds to activate it, trusts Omega to cut the correct wire, like some sort of action movie, and count down till their ultimate demise. It goes off, and we find out it's just a smoke bomb. I figured it was something like that, or I thought she would have cut the correct wire at some point, but no. I also thought this would play into the episode later. Again, sort of, but not really. Something else I'd like to comment on here is that although this part's trying to show Wrecker and Omega bonding, I just didn't feel like this did as good of a job as last episode, where they're both pigging out on space popcorn. I'm not saying that they have to eat to bond, but I guess I didn't take record for the bomb squad. I honestly thought that would have been more Echo and Tech's territory, but then again, Wrecker likes things that go boom. I guess what I'm trying to say is, this could have worked, but for some reason, it just didn't for me. Echo comes to collect them as Hunter called for them, and on their way back they're spotted by more units from the Scrapper Guild. The three members just sort of stand there and watch the clones. I think they were just spying on them to keep them on Bracca, but I'm not sure what their intentions were. But Wrecker and Echo pursue them. Echo manages to knock two of them out, then Wrecker grabs onto their speeder and flies away. But don't worry, he's got this. Yeah, Tech remarks, that's not very comforting. Hunter tells Echo to keep visuals, and he snipes the third guy taking the speeder down. Back at the ship, they talk about their plan as usual. Hunter wants to stay at the ship for a moment and take a few things from the Star Destroyer. His idea is to pace it off. Tech goes on about some data from the ship and how that alone would be worth a lot. So they get to it. They're looking around when Omega finds explosives in a box. Wrecker's in awe of this discovery. Then his attention's pulled behind her, where there are giant racks of proton torpedoes. Tech gets the lights back on. Omega opens this protective door to the torpedoes. Wrecker then takes one from the racks and hugs it. Need a minute there, Wrecker? Hunter and Echo are talking, and the subject of paying Sid off is brought up again. Echo interjects, adding, if we went with Rex, we wouldn't even have to pay Sid off. Hunter tries telling him that Rex is on a different path, but Echo replies with, we're soldiers. What other path is there? I sense some sort of disagreement coming in the future between these two about whether it's best to keep themselves hidden or try to fight back. Right now, it's pretty passive, but I'm sure that this will come to blows later. I wonder if Echo will leave to fight alongside Rex. It'd be pretty sad if we find out that he died in battle, and that's why Rex retired. So Omega finds her way up to the bridge where Tech has been. He's gotten pretty much all of the data except for the main core or something like that. He hands her a screwdriver looking thing to get the data while he works. She wanders through the window and just looks out. She asks what the war was like. He gives a very Sheldon-like response, and she's all like, yeah, but how was it actually like? When she notices a flashing light and asks what it's doing, Tech answers, it's an indicator of oncoming ships. It's most likely a short circuit. Just then, 3 ships soar overhead. It's Crosshair. Tech warns the others and starts jamming their sensors. The 3 ships were loaded with clones and Crosshair's commando crew. 2 of them are trying to get readings on the planet but fail. They attribute this to atmospheric interference, but Crosshair knows better. He knows. He sends a small group of 5 clones back into one of the shuttles, and sets off with the rest. These are such cool scenes. I wasn't really sure at what point this was, but at some point we go back to Kamino. Lama-Su is calling for more help. Nala-Se asks if it's wise, because she's already sent Fennec for the job. But Lama-Su thinks it doesn't matter as long as they get Omega back. I am dying to know what's so important about Omega. I know she's Kaminoan property, but they aren't showing nearly as much interest in the other members of the Bad Batch. Their contract with the Republic is pretty much over. They don't have to find another Jango DNA sample anymore. Are they still after her because she's not susceptible at all to the inhibitor chip's effects? As she does not have one. Never did think that was fair. Why doesn't she have an inhibitor chip? But I digress. Is she a test for some kind of superhuman? Back on the Star Destroyer, our clones have regrouped and start for the hangar. Tech hacks into their communications and we find out that Crosshair wants them cornered in the hangar bay. Hunter tells his team to go for the artillery shaft. They get there and they try to make their escape, but they've made sort of a mistake by coming here. It's elevated by all the debris and wreckage. It's too high to jump down from, and Wrecker definitely isn't going to jump from that height. They turn to look for another way out when they're surrounded by Crosshair's team. No escape this time, or so it seems. Crosshair had predicted their moves, and now checkmate. This really felt like someone playing chess or even tic-tac-toe all by themselves. Every time one piece moves, you know where the opponent will move next. Crosshair is very familiar with how Hunter leads. Tech tells Echo to plug in and try to get the cannons working. Echo reminds Tech of the rickety state of this ship. It would bring the ceiling crashing down on them, which is exactly what Tech wants. Hunter tries to reason with Crosshair. Wake up, he says. You're being controlled by an inhibitor chip. Omega confirms this. She had told him when they were in prison in the first episode that it wasn't his fault, but Crosshair doesn't seem to care. He orders to fire on Omega. All of a sudden, the cannons fire, and parts of the ceiling come crashing down on top of the opposing clone troopers, and they make their escape. Now their plan is to leave via the giant engine hatches. Crosshair gets up and commands a clone to go up to the bridge and for a shuttle to come to him, continuing the chess match. They make their way through the engine system and almost make it out. They're shot at, just barely missing Tech. Crosshair antagonizes them once more and calms the one trooper to start the engines. He's planning on incinerating them. They come up with the plan to use the explosives from earlier and put them on the ring around the engine to disconnect where they're standing. I don't know when Crosshair was planning on getting out of there. He should have called the order, waited a couple seconds and left. But instead he notices their plan, but before he does anything about it, the engines roar to life, blowing him and clone troopers away with his helmet falling off. He's exposed to whatever the engine is firing, and I have a feeling that doesn't feel very great. It seems like he starts to disintegrate maybe, but he hurries and calls off the engine. His clone troopers soon find him and call in a medic. He seems to be pretty beat. I would like to see him get a bit more beaten up from this experience, because I think it could have been cool sort of battle scarring for his character, deformed like Darth Vader and the Emperor. Later on they get him bandaged up and fly off to take on the clone deserters again. It seems like the Bad Batch got separated at this point. The cylinder of the engine cover was spinning and falling, fell on something and cracked in half. But Hunter and Omega are the first ones to make it back to the ship. When they notice all of the clones have been wiped out, it's logical to come to the conclusion at this moment that it's Rex. But it's not. It's Cad Bane. This guy hasn't been seen quite some time now, even in the Clone Wars show itself. I believe he last appeared in Season 4. He's obviously here for Omega. He and Hunter have a standoff. The fate of this girl. Hunter draws his blaster, only for Cad Bane to shoot first. Hunter goes down. Cad Bane stuns Omega, putting her unconscious. Hunter wakes up. His team gets him back on the Marauder, keeping back the Imperial threat, and Hunter tells the rest Omega has been kidnapped. Now this is what I'm talking about. This is pretty much what I expected from the show, the Empire hunting these guys down and barely escaping with their lives. This episode was really amazing. I felt a real sense of worry for these characters. I didn't know what would happen. I barely had any thoughts just soaking up this episode. It was a nice surprise to see Cad Bane in this episode. My wife called me out on this being my favorite part of the episode, and although she wasn't exactly wrong, I did really like this episode for other reasons. Anyway, there was originally an arc of the Clone Wars before it was cancelled that was going to feature him and Boba Fett on a hunt. At the very end, they were going to stand off Old West style, because Star Wars loves Western standoffs. It was going to be the last we see Cad Bane. They had shot each other, and Boba Fett won. So I wonder if we'll get to see that in this show, take a break from the Bad Batch, or if we'll see the events in another perspective. Who knows? Like I said, Crosshair is just such an interesting antagonist. He's not only familiar to the protagonists, but he's even from the same group. This episode proved that he may just win once or twice, as he was able to predict every one of Hunter's moves. I just hope he doesn't turn into a General Grievous where he always loses, because this is still kind of a kid's show. Like, so is the Clone Wars, but it was still able to have more mature content sometimes, although Grievous did always lose. But by Grievous always losing, it just made him less of a threat. The animation was really good in this episode. I mostly noticed this during the first person sequence with Hunter. Usually with the shake cam, they don't always get it correct, making it feel like a panning picture than actual shaking. But this show managed to make it look at least better, not perfect, but better than I've seen an animated shake cam look like. But that's all I have for this time. If you like this, please give a like, and if you feel so inclined, share this video with your friends. If I've missed something in this episode or got something wrong, please feel free to tell me what it is in the comments. Also feel free to tell me what you thought of this episode. But until next time, this has been Axomyth the Star Wars Guy, and I'll catch you next time.